And we're back. It's yet another sequel that has happened, and it's coming to streaming soon. I think probably like May. May, I'm guessing. Didn't really light the fire, so I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess the third one's coming out, but I'm gonna get the first two reviewed on here. This is Ant-Man. Just in case you didn't see that in the title, I'm going to tell you anyway. That's what we're here to talk about, is Ant-Man. This is, I believe, my third time seeing this. I feel like I've definitely seen it twice. And I think I've actually seen it twice, too, before I lost my vision. So, I know I've seen it at least once. I think that second time was also before. So, this is Peyton Reed's first little jump into Ant-Man. And I kind of started this little Ant-Man universe that we got with a bunch of characters in it. He's the one that brought us, Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly, who have both worked out pretty well so far in the MCU. For anybody who's a big fan of Lost, just Evangeline Lilly getting career success that many years after Lost is just kind of like, oh my god, usually it's like you have to strike while the iron's hot, but she's getting roles like way after Lost. So good for her. And of course Paul Rudd is he's great. He just he pulls everything together. There's a part of me that always wishes that I could see like the alternate what Edgar Wright would have done version. Even if it's just like a storyboard. Like I really want to see like a cohesive sort of Edgar Wright's version. He gets a story by credit here for this film, but they pulled him as a director, and it's kind of like, I mean, Peyton Reed's fine, but if you really want to know how stylized a film would have been, imagine Ant-Man from the director of Baby Driver. It's kind of like, if you've ever had a complaint about the Ant-Man films, just imagine if they were all directed by the guy who brought us Shaun of the Dead. So it kind of puts a different spin and perspective on it than when you're like, oh, it's directed by the guy who made Ray. Cool. I mean, it was a good film, but I don't know. I don't know if is that what you think? Do you think superhero movie? I don't know. I don't. Sort of like how, yeah, I mean, Solo, a Star Wars story, was Ron Howard, but I have a feeling that Phil Lord and Chris Miller's Solo would have been very different and very interesting. Sometimes when you pull people who are very specific in their direction, and it's hard to go back and complain and be like, oh, I didn't like this. Well, maybe you should have kept the first director. Anyway, the audio description here is nice and it's British. I noticed that happens a lot. We just take Disney Plus, I guess, or Disney just takes the first audio description that's ever recorded, which is usually done, I guess, for the UK, and just plops that right into the film and goes with that as the audio description. Maybe they figure it's easier to do that because then they don't have to keep uploading multiple audio description tracks, and they're like, oh, Americans will listen to British people. I mean, we will, so it's a good call on their part. Maybe British people won't listen to Americans, so maybe it's the other way around. So it's just easier for them to attach one British audio description to everything. So, yeah, this is the Ant-Man that if you've seen it, you remember it. If you haven't seen it, this is good. It's where it started. There's a fun little altercation. This is what I love, by the way. I've talked about this in some other reviews as to why I can't deal with some of the films anymore in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though I'm a huge Marvel fan, why they're starting to piss me off. Because we keep having these massive world-ending events, right? These huge, like, massive things. And they're left to, like, one hero. And Ant-Man highlights this problem and also kind of with a solution, right? So it does answer the fact that, oh, hey, look, we're paying attention. And when Ant-Man in this film goes and he needs to steal something from the Avengers headquarters, he immediately, it's triggered and censored, and Falcon flies in. Falcon flies in like Falcon was like next door. Like Falcon, Falcon flies in super fast. But he comes in. Like that's the point. Is like he's like my sensors got tripped. And it's like, okay, so you pay attention to your own headquarters, but like in all these other films and television series that we keep having popping up, all this weird shit keeps happening, and y'all are like, nah, we're not gonna step in. Like the whole Eternals movie happened, and not a single Avenger was like, we should get up in that. No one. So, yeah. But in Ant-Man, the signal gets stripped on their own facility, and out of nowhere, Falcon's like, I got this. I'm on this. I'm here. Don't worry. Don't worry, guys. Falcon is on patrol. So, it's a fun little cameo, and they have a nice little fun fight. Yeah, and I guess I like Ant-Man's crew, which I think gets dramatically reduced as this series gets pulled forward, and with a little bit more focus just on Michael Pena's character. I feel like as we moved forward, his gang got smaller, and I think I'm going to figure out who's missing from Ant-Man and the Wasp, like when the balance comes out. But I definitely didn't realize there were that many people in his crew when I watched it the first time around. I was like, oh, he's got a lot. Oh, damn. I didn't realize there were that many people. But I feel like somebody didn't come back for the sequel. We'll see, because I'm going to review it. Yeah, Michael Pena is definitely the standout of that crew. I'm sorry to, David Desmalian and T.I., but Michael Pena steals most of the scenes. I love when he's like, oh, Boss Man told me to, and the guard is just like, I am the boss, and he just punches the guy in the face and knocks him out. I'm like, oh, damn. I know Michael Pena could just knock people out in one punch. He's One Punch Man. We got anime tie-ins now. So, I know this review's all over the place, but I don't know. I feel weird talking about a film that I think a lot of people have seen. I'm here mainly because it's the first time that I watched it with audio description, and in that term, yeah, it was cool. It focuses a lot on when Ant-Man is able to transform from big to small. It focuses a lot on that. It's pretty good at describing what the ants are doing all the time, which is great because those are characters that are nonverbal and they're constantly doing things. There are ants around him at all times. I mean, flying around him, running around him, doing things for him. Just at every beck and call, he was like Aquaman, but for ants. And yeah, they do a lot. They do quite a bit. They're on people, crawling on people. And sometimes you wouldn't know that if there was an audio description for it. Sometimes you wouldn't know what the ants were doing if there was no audio description. You'd be missing out on them sneaking around trying to get something, them crawling on somebody, them biting somebody. Yeah, you would just miss out on a lot. So, a lot of his early tests have to do with him being able to get ants to do things like lift sugar cubes or a coin. So if that stuff doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. So, but we also have the big fight with Yellow Jacket. I love it. It's really hard to captivate, and it's one of the things that Peyton Reed does brilliantly, and I kind of wonder if Edgar Wright didn't have the idea, because it feels more like an Edgar Wright thing than a Peyton Reed thing. But the train sequence in Cassie's room, the fight between Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket, when she's got a train set in her room and it's going like around and around and around, and when they shrink, it seems like they're having this fight on this like epic train, but it's really just like a toy train set that's going around and around, and they're fighting on it. And I remember seeing the juxtaposition, and you can hear it in the sound design a little bit, how it cuts away, and you can tell that the camera angle has pulled away from the fight to show you how weird it looks. Like it's just this toy set, and the train keeps going around. There's nothing really in the audio description that lets you know that they're trying to do that. They're trying to show you that they're trying to get the pullback shot so that you understand that these two have shrunken down and are fighting on a toy train set, and how absolutely ridiculous, even though it sounds really epic when they're fighting, it pulls back and it looks silly. It's funny. It's stuff like that is just, it's really hard to get that sort of directorial style in on the audio description when you have certain shots or certain the reasoning of certain scenes, why we're doing things the way we're doing them, that make it a little hard to throw that in there. So that's kind of like one of the things, I guess I'd be like, I don't know. But otherwise, I think the film, at least in its most challenging ways, has to focus a lot on the growth and shrinking, the shrinking growth of stuff. I think it does it pretty well, because there are times when he does it really quickly, and then like there's one time when he jumps through a keyhole, like he starts out large and then he shrinks and jumps through a keyhole and then enlarges himself on the other side. So when you get that kind of audio description and specificity in that scene, it works really well. So yeah, I don't know that necessarily the character descriptions are like amazing for those who are like, oh, I need these people to be like really well described to me, like exactly what they're looking like, or when their eyebrows are raised and stuff like that. I don't know that this film has a lot of that, but it does have a lot of action that it has to cover, and a lot of action it has to describe, and a lot of nonverbal ants that are always doing things. And it can't trample over dialogue, and Paul Rudd loves to talk. And that's one of the reasons you put Paul Rudd in a film, is because he loves to talk. So it's all perspective, and I think the biggest things that it got right, for the most part. So there's just a little bit of thing like wishful thinking that I wish somebody had caught just been able to make a reference to the fact that we were pulling back and showing the two tiny little people on this little toy train going around. But it doesn't really have time, I guess. I don't know. In that moment, in that fight scene, it's just kind of caught up in the fight. So we can only fit just so many words in, right? So this is one of I actually really like the Ant-Man films, so this is one of my more favorite films. Plus, I really like Marvel films in general. Not all of them. I do not high grade all Marvel films. That is not the truth that I live. So just when you hear this grade, just know that this is not the grade for all Marvel and all MCU TV shows and all that stuff. But I do like Ant-Man. I know I might be in the minority, and yes, I do think it would be really fun to know what Edgar Wright would have done. But I think this is a decent introduction to the film. I don't think Corey Stoll is the worst villain as Yellow Jacket. He's set up pretty well, but he's just not. He just doesn't feel like he's necessarily, I don't know, epic, I guess I would say. I don't know that he needs to feel epic. He feels a little bit like Iron Man, like Jeff Bridges and Iron Man. Just sort of like a repurposed version of that, of the Obadiah character from that film. So it's a little like, oh, you're taking over my business and running it into your own direction, into the ground, and I don't like it. It's kind of like that. So he's fine. He's not super memorable, but he's also not the worst villain in the MCU. So take that for what you will. I'm going to give Ant-Man an A-. Like I said, I think this is my third time, so that's where I'm putting Ant-Man. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please click subscribe. I also have a website, MacTheMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description, where you can watch it. And you can go to theadna.org. That's theadna.org. It'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will watch more movies and I will tell you about them. That's what I do. So until then, I'll see you on the other side.